Hi, and welcome to another edition of City at Your Service. I'm Jonathan Thomas, and today we are joined by two members of a very special program done by Austin Economic Development and the Small Business Division specifically. Joaquin Gonzalez, the program manager for artist career training, and Anthony Camargo, a program mentor. And we're going to be talking about this program, this artist career training program here, guys. A lot of cool stuff y'all are doing with this. First off, I want to thank you both for joining us here today. There's a conception or misconception, if you will, that artists aren't entrepreneurs. I've actually, funny enough, I've heard Jay-Z talk about this. There's the whole thing of the starving artist, the broke artist. There's a conception that that's the way it's supposed to be, and you guys show people that that's not exactly the case. Just talk about that shift in perspective and why it's important to, implement that.
Absolutely. So yeah, so that's a common thing that, a lot of people think that artists is just like just out there painting and doing these little things. But, as far as like here in Austin, there's a lot of things that bring people to Austin, like the music, obviously live music capital of the world. But there's more to that. There's people here that are creating some great work, sculptures, wall, what's it called? Oh my God, the ceramics and all wall designs, and just different things like that.
Yep.
So there's just so much stuff that's going on out there. And so one of the things that what we've noticed is that, hey, they're not treating it as a business sometimes. So we want them to realize, hey, you are a business and there's things that you need to know about. For example, how to set up your company. Should you be running as a sole proprietor? Should you be running as an LLC? Those are things that need to be answered. And then other resources such as like marketing and social media strategies and things like that to get their product or whatever it is that they're working on out there, their project, right? So, I mean, one of the folks that has been very helpful with that is the mentors that are in our program. They're really knowledgeable about all the stuff that's going on around here, and so that's one of the reasons we use those guys to and those partners to be able to help us get the word out to some of these artists and creatives out there.
Yeah. What's your take on it?
Well, it's first off, it's an honor to be a part of the program. When I moved to Austin in 1998, when you were just speaking about how it's not taken seriously as a business, sometimes being an artist or creative entrepreneur, um, I kind of looked at it from a perspective. I moved from Manhattan in 1998 to Austin, Texas, when there was really nothing here.
Yeah, it's much different back
As
then.
far as being successful in the arts, there was no really such as there was really no script for that. If you were a musician, yes, you had a possibility, but other than that, it was pretty limited. But I came with a Manhattan sensibility. And the Manhattan sensibility was, how do I start a business in this town and make it successful? And I started off with three goals. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to not be a starving artist. That was number one. I needed to tell myself that in my head. I wanted to demystify whatever industry I was in. These were my lofty goals, but I also wanted to become a part of history. So if I would have had a mentorship program back then, believe me, I wouldn't have had to write my own script. I wrote my own script back then because I had no mentorship program. This did not exist.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So that brings me to my next question. Is just kind of define the program, the artist career training program, and just walk us through like the funding opportunities, different things that come through participating in this program.
Yeah, so knowing Anthony went through, those are a lot of commonalities of some of the artists and musicians that are in this industry, the creative industry. Noticing that, we decided to come up with this program called the Artist Career Training Program. And what this is, it's a 6-week program that's catered to them. So we provide. So it starts off with session one, goal setting and business model canvas, where you kind of just set your goals, personal and business goals for your creativity, right? Your projects. And then we also, session two is related to marketing and social media strategies. Session three is related to like the legal part, again, talking about the LLCs and all that, the protections, the risks and stuff as it associated with the business that you're doing. Again, the artists seem to not think that they're a business, but they're a business, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so these are very important topics that need to be learned by these folks. And so the fourth one finally is related to the finance. Obviously, we got to pay the IRS and all that, right? So we want to make sure that what they're doing out there is something that's going to benefit them and that they're not going to get in trouble. So we provide a session for that covers the accounting, and it's just kind of basic bookkeeping type of stuff to consider. And then finally, the fifth session is related to grants and funding. And so we kind of give them some ideas of what to do, some creative funding opportunities there. And we work really well with our sister department, which is, I always forget the acronym, ACME. Is it Artists, Cultural, Music and Entertainment?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that one. So we work with them a lot, and so they're very supportive of our program. And so the fifth session is actually Anne Marie McCaskill was the one that helps us with that one, and she covers a lot of topics related to grants and stuff. It's because they provide some grant opportunities themselves through their programs, Thrive, Nexus, and all that. So, but anyways, and then finally, the fifth session is kind of like Shark Tank. We have. So throughout the program, it's really fun because they're all working throughout the program to come up with a project or something that they can present at the very end. That's part of the deal, right? So they need to agree to be able to present this. We only select 24 candidates. And the interesting thing is that we get a pretty good amount of people that apply, but we only select 24. And those 24 are selected by industry professionals, people that are in there, like music. So our panel of judges are going to be the ones that select those 24. So it's a very competitive process to not everybody gets selected, but it's a really good program. For the most part, we get really really good feedback, and it's gotten really popular over the years. So
Well, I'm going to say that I think that the caliber as a mentor, this past session, the caliber of students or the mentees that were there was phenomenal. I was just really blown away by how hard they actually have already worked, what successes they already have had, and this was just another way for them to move it to the next level. And being surrounded by people that come with expertise, and this is what Joaquin and the team bring to the table, are people who are out there in the real world with successful businesses that are coming in and taking their time from legal, accounting, from all these different areas to offer their services and to help these young people. And they're not have to be young people; it could be old people as well.
For sure. Yeah.
But to help them and to help guide them. But one of the beautiful things is the friendships that develop throughout this program. You start to see these people come together, and they're spending so much intimate time together. You can't put a dollar value on that.
and adding to that, we wanted to mention too that the speakers that we hire for these sessions, they're not just people that we just found it, right? So these are actually industry professionals that are in, for example, for the third session, we actually have an attorney that's represented creatives throughout their career. That's what they do. Even the accountant that we use, they represent a lot of the creatives out there, and so that's another thing. And of course, the mentors. The mentors are the key to this whole program. We have 6 mentors, and these are industry professionals, people that have been out there. Like I said, Anthony Camargo has been in this industry, in the jewelry industry, for quite a bit. Made a really good impact back here in the 2000s, and so he's really good at that. So for him to be able to offer that experience to these individuals, it's invaluable. It's a lot. A
Yeah.
lot of good stuff, yeah, for them. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And we'll dive more into Anthony, your experience as a mentor here in a second. You mentioned funding. Just walk us through the funding opportunities that are available and how artists can use that to support their work.
sure. So again, there's 6 sessions, a total of 6, and again, throughout the program, you're learning all these things, but you're working on a project. And the cool thing is that on the sixth session, that's the reason I left it out a little bit there. But the sixth session is kind of like the Shark Tank thing, where you're competing in the top 3 in the end. We're gonna have a panel of judges, and we do this every year where we have a panel, and they select the top 3. There's a scoring going on, and the top 3 end up with cash prizes. And it's not much, but when we're looking at top prize of $1,000, second prize $750, and the third prize $500. You might think, well, that's not then, but
I wouldn't think that.
Right.
I mean, hey, $500 is $500.
well, $500 can cover your LLC, for example. If you want to register your business, make it an official business, $300. That's what it costs to register your business.
Yeah.
So it's very beneficial. So that's one of the things that we do. But again, as I mentioned before, what we like to do is work with Acme and our sister department there and help and refer them to the programs and the grant opportunities they have. And again, we also bring in, as I mentioned, for session 5, Anne Marie McCaskill is very, she's an expert as it relates to grants and all these different ways to find funds for their projects. So that's what we do as far as like grant opportunities.
Okay, great. Now, Anthony,
Yes, sir.
you're a mentor.
Mhm.
Just kind of what has that experience been like, and what made you want to do that?
Well, the experience has been such a wonderful growth experience for myself, a growth opportunity. As somebody who's a mentor today, I reflect back to when I was a young man when I first started my first business in my 20s, and I had a self-appointed mentor, somebody that came into my life who was basically giving me business advice when I was quite young, and all I kept thinking was, "Who is this old guy trying to like tell me what to do?" I'm not realizing that he was actually taking time and me being ungrateful for the time that he was actually investing into me. So over the years, he was always there. He was always there as a friend, but also as a business advisor. Taught me the importance of how to have relationships, how to build relationships within the business community. That also impacted my personal life as well and how I conducted myself in so many different ways. So the mentorship program is not just about business. It's about how it layers into all aspects of who we are, and that's what I wanted to bring and offer that to the table, but also I wanted to bring to the table I went through the experience of coming to Austin in the beginning when I didn't have a mentor at that time, and having to navigate the waters, not understanding that I needed to go get an LLC, and I needed to go do those legal things that needed to be done, and had to made mistakes along the way. This program, as I was participating in this year, I I became a mentee because I'm learning. I'm learning not just from the professionals that are coming, but I'm learning from the people that I'm mentoring. And that to me was the most beautiful and special part of the whole thing. Today, as a mentor who's now serviced that program, I still am in contact with my mentees. And in fact, I hire them for their services. I give them opportunities that I can in my workspace. And they're my friends. They're actually my friends. And in fact, I have one that I'm working with right now on a very large project with the Bastrop Fur Ball that we have a love for animals, both of us. And we both decided to come together and do something that was very special to raise money and funding. So yeah, it's a never ending cycle. And you're checking in with your people all the time just to see what they're doing. And then next thing you know, they go, "Oh, I'm a jewelry designer. I have a singer that I mentor." She's like, "Oh, we're doing a photo shoot. I need jewelry for my photo shoot." And that circle just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, that's so awesome, hearing you say all that. And Joaquin, what has it been like to have, mentors like Anthony, as a part of the program?
I mean, it's what makes the program. I mean, at the end of the day, the whole thing, obviously, it's as a whole, the bundle, whole thing is great. But having the mentors and having them share their experience and what they've gone through, again, going back to what he said, where what he experienced. If I only knew what I knew, what's that saying? Well, hell, I knew what I did. Yeah, exactly. What I knew then, yeah, it would be a whole different ball game here, right? But you know, that's what we need. And I think even like small businesses, we know that small businesses need something like this as well. And so for us to be able to provide this to the creatives that are out there, we don't want them to get in trouble with not reporting their taxes and all these different things. We want to help them. We want to help them kind of get their mindset to where, hey, this is a business too. It's not just the creators. I understand you got your creative stuff, beautiful stuff, awesome, but let's take care of this stuff too. So to me, it's invaluable.
If I can interject in that too, I think what it also does, this offers you an opportunity to understand what your weaknesses may be. So you may be creative and maybe you're not the best at bookkeeping, but there are resources. There are resources out there that you can then start to work for that goal of going, that's not my forte, But I know if I work really hard and I bring money in and I'm bringing income in, I can hire somebody now. And now I've got resources because I'm meeting them through this wonderful program.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really awesome. Again, going back to how we started the show. I mean, artists, art is the number one thing on their mind. That's why they're artists. They're
Yeah.
not businessmen or women, right? Like that's how it goes. But it's good that you all help, remind them, hey, you are an entrepreneur and there are things out there that you need to know. And there are things out there that you can take advantage of as well
So
to maximize, the way you make this living.
absolutely.
That's as important.
Programs like this, I mean, can probably be mimicked into for small businesses as well, because they run into the same issues, right?
Yeah.
Where you have a construction guy whose their expertise is doing the construction, but they also need to, learn about those other things, which is the financings and the marketing. How are you going to get the work? Same thing with it's the same thing with the artists, with the creative industry. So it's really good stuff. I think it's really great. So,
Yeah, that's great.
Another asset now that the program offers is a lot of AI training. And that's really important because
Yes.
we all know that that is a crucial aspect to everybody's the social media awareness, all of that stuff, and how to navigate those things. If you're not, if you're not in your 20s and you're in my age group, we're older. I'm an older person. I don't have that access as easily as somebody in their 20s because they grew up with it. For me, it's a learning curve. So that having those professionals come in or those experts come in who know about those programs or how to initiate them into your business is crucial.
Yeah. Now I want to say with you, Anthony, real quick. And you said you moved here in 1998.
Yes.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here. What are the biggest three changes that you've seen here in Austin?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I,
And you don't have to be super specific.
actually, I moved here in 1998. I was here till 2010, and then I moved to Asia.
Okay.
When I moved back 10 years
That was
later,
really when it changed.
that's when I saw the change. I felt like I was in Singapore when I drove downtown. I was like, what is this city? So yeah, that was probably the biggest change. But I think the other big change was that a lot of the small businesses that used to be thriving here are starting to get eaten up by larger corporations. The rents got really expensive. People that were mom and pop operations in the downtown area are no longer there. A lot of them are still in business because that is one great thing about the Austin community is that they do support the community. They support their people. So whether that business had to move to a different location, they're still being supported. But it did change. It changed the landscape. Leslie isn't here anymore. So that was one of the biggest changes that I had encountered.
Yeah, I heard about Leslie's.
Leslie, yeah, staple here.
Yeah, and I think Sixth Street, Sixth Street has been such a volatile part of our community, but we'll see what happens. Is it going to change, or are we going to retain that atmosphere that Sixth Street has always been? I
Yeah,
don't-
for sure. And that's what they're trying to do. We're trying to keep that spirit alive.
Yeah.
Now,
Interestingly, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
Interestingly, we had one of our cohorts. She did one of her projects was related to keep Austin weird, and so she was trying to go back to like, hey, what happened to Austin? Let's go back to those weird spots or the weird things that used to be here. And so that was an interesting project. So and it relates to what you guys are saying that they change and how it's become more corporate, more big business type of thing. So
Yeah, and
really interesting.
I wanted to ask you quickly, Joaquin, just for you personally, just how much excitement, how much of a thrill do you get out of, helping, artists and just participating in this program yourself, being the program manager.
Honestly, I actually started off. I'm a small business owner myself, but I started off as that. I was not really sure about it when I first started this program, and but it once we started going, I was like, wow, this is good. This is something that could really make a difference here in Austin. So it's become a thing for me, as you can tell in the excitement in my voice here. But I love seeing the excitement from these artists that are learning some of these resources, that are working with their mentors, that are they're doing stuff. And as a matter of fact, I was mentioning to Anthony is that one of the things that I'm working on now is to try to do like a where are they now type of thing for the cohort, the past cohorts. And my goal is to maybe hopefully do some stories of where they are now. But it's been a really good deal because not just even the ones that don't win are doing stuff, which is very, very cool. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's great. That's so awesome. All right. Now, for those who are interested, if you're out there as a creative and you're listening to this and you love it and you're interested, when does recruitment begin and what should they know about applying for this artist career training program?
So we expect to launch the application portal by the beginning of July and then closing it around August, beginning of August. So like about a month worth. And then so the actual sessions don't start till we're hoping to start around towards the end last week of September. What we don't want to do is kind of go into the November month. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We don't have official dates yet, but tentatively, in July, to beginning of July. And so if you're interested, we're looking for folks that are creatives. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, we had a lady that did cakes that no, actually it was Jell-Os, beautiful little Jell-O things. Yeah, she was part of our program as well. So it could be anything. Again, I'm not the one that picks them. It's going to be a panel of judges, experts in this industry. So that's what I rely on for them to make a decision if they are going to be part of the program or not. That is actually, and again, it's a 6-week program and it requires some commitment. So while we don't deny people that are in school, like in college, the reason we don't deny them, but it's kind of like a case by case basis, uh, because it requires a lot of time, and we don't want to be the reason that they fail a class or something like that. So we know there's creatives there, but that's the problem there. But again, case by case basis. But it requires a lot of time and commitment to this program. It's 6 weeks, total 6 weeks, 6 to 9 p.m. Wednesdays, starting again probably around September 23rd. Not official, but around there for the sessions. We hold it again, so it's going to be in the fall, and it's at our offices at 5202 East Bend White offices over there where the Mexican consulate is.
All right.
Uh,
5202 East Bend White.
that's right. It's the first session Wednesday, September 23rd, most likely. Yes.
Okay.
And then it's every Wednesday after that.
All right, great, great. All right, well, Anthony, what any final words before we let y'all go on the program?
Yeah, I want to say that when I got to go back to coming back here in 1998, I didn't know that I was going to start a business here, and I didn't know that it was going to be successful. It was probably one of the best moves I ever made was to move to Austin, Texas from Manhattan. I was able to start Anthony Knack Fine Jewelry, which became a global company. I was very fortunate to be able to be in a community that was very supportive of the brand that I was building. And we had a lot of celebrities in town that were coming in to film movies. So it was kind of a perfect tie-in. But all these years later, now I have a new brand, which is Camargo Legacy Partners. And that is about tying things into the community and bringing awareness to community issues or problems or fun organizations that might need some funding, some money. So we're our first, in fact, thing we're doing this weekend is the Lockhart Fur Ball, and that is to raise awareness for animals in need. And that's what my company now is about. Still jewelry, but now we make jewelry for other benefits.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And is there a website or anywhere people can go to get some more information?
Smallbizaustin.org is going to be the best place. And there's a page there for artist career training, but that's where you would go to learn more about the program. You can also sign up for our newsletter and you can sign up through that web link there. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Great stuff. Great stuff on this one. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure for sure. That was Joaquin Gonzalez, the program manager for Artist Career Training. That's the program we were talking about. And Anthony Camargo, a program mentor. I am Jonathan Thomas, and this has been another edition of City at Your Service. Have a great one.